Hello, my name is Avery Bradford, and I am the owner of the Hive content marketing business, and I am also the creator of Grow Freelance. And today I will be chatting with my friend Molly Norman. She has a full-time job, but is also starting to grow freelance. So today we're going to talk about how she balances both. Molly, hello.
Hello. Thank
How
you
are
for having me.
you? Of
I'm just
course.
lovely. How are you?
I'm great. Tell us where you are and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I am in Seattle. I actually moved out here in October for my full-time job in sales, and I love it out here. It's been a fun new experience just to get a little bit outside of the Midwest. I shouldn't even say a little bit, it's like really far. But it's been really fun to just experience another area, and getting to come out to do it for work has been awesome. So I've been doing that and then exploring some other things as well, just for a little side hustle. So
Yes. Tell us a little bit more about that. What are you exploring and what do you mean by side hustle?
totally. So it's funny because I was actually just kind of thinking back on, my past in school and, whether that's college or even before that. And I've always had my hand in like a bunch of different things, whether it's like student organizations and just your regular schoolwork. And I realized when I stopped school, I really didn't have much of that anymore. And you kind of lose your sense of purpose, and like your creativity doesn't get outletted to anything because our jobs are our jobs. So I just kind of found myself really, really craving having something else. And I toyed with a bunch of different things for the longest time because I don't know if you watch a lot of TED Talks, but I do. And there's
Hmm.
this one that's called, it's about being a multi-potentialite. And essentially
Yes.
it's like one of my favorite things because I was like, oh, this is a thing. It's okay to like multiple different things and want to do a whole bunch of stuff, even if you're kind of master of none. I think it's really just a positive spin on that. So I decided to look into freelancing, and
Yes.
now I'm here.
I love that. I actually heard that term, I think last year or the year before that. I was in Thailand and I was listening to a podcast, and this was when I was just starting to freelance, and I heard that term, and I was like, yes, that's me, because I felt like I was good at all of these different things in the world of freelance. There's going to be a little bit of echo, which is kind of annoying, but that's fine. In the world of freelance, and in my business of the Hive, but I didn't feel like I was the master of anything. But I was really good at all of these things, and I've learned to embrace that. And I have clients that I do so many different things for. So I love that
Yeah,
you watch that TED Talk and felt the same way.
yeah, because I think there's, and I don't know what your thoughts on this will be, but I feel like in the world of freelance and, whether it's content creation or whatever you're trying to do, I feel like a lot of people pressure the idea of finding a niche right away. Like
Yeah,
you always hear people being like, oh, specialize, specialize, specialize. But I don't know how realistic that is, especially right off the bat. So I think that's the cool thing about freelancing and being young professionals like we are, because we've got the mechanics of doing things online, but also communicating, whether that be in writing or in person. So I think millennials, that's been a bad term for a long time, but I think that we kind of have a lot to offer that way. So I think freelance gives people the opportunity to explore a few different things while they're trying to understand what they want to specialize in, or if they even want to at all. So
definitely. Yeah, I have found that um, I like the word niching down, I like the term, because
oh,
it does help people to make more money. But also, like you said, there's a lot of pressure in that, and especially people just starting out in freelance or in whatever their entrepreneurial journey is, um, making them feel like they have to, choose one thing and stick with it. But that's not how it is at all. Um, so you became interested in freelance when? Was it when you heard that TED Talk, or was it before then? When did you hear the term freelance, and when did that whole journey start for you?
so I realized that I've kind of been doing freelance work for a long time, like finding little side projects that I can help people with, or whether it's getting paid to do it or not. I think I've been doing that for as long as I've been alive, basically. But I think that that term has become really popular in the last couple of years. And when I really first started to latch onto it, was really when you started doing what you do. And I was thinking like, wow, this is a realistic thing for young people. You can make a living, you can make it into a career. So I think when you first started getting jobs on Upwork or working for clients where you weren't necessarily obtaining them in the most traditional way, I was like, that's cool. Like you can do something with it. It's not just a side job. So couple years ago, I really started latching onto that as a term, but probably for a longer time, I've been really doing that.
Okay. So you said maybe 3 years ago you latched on it as a
Yeah.
term. When did the wheels turn of this being an idea of something that you could do? And, even though you have been doing it for, like you said, as long as you can remember, when did you make that conscious decision to change it from this is an idea of something I could do to this is something I am going to do, as a full-time professional, being the cherry on top of it?
Totally. I think that first and foremost, it is a really nerve-wracking thing to be a full-time professional and then have a side hustle, because some are going to receive that really well and think it's really cool and lift you up in that endeavor, but others might think that you're kind of a traitor, and maybe that means that you're not as dedicated to what you're doing. So it was a little bit scary for me to do that at first, but I have to say I wanted to truly make an intentional switch of when I was really going to jump in, because for the longest time I just didn't think I was in a very good space mentally. But right now I feel like I have a lot of that capacity. So really within the past 6 months, I would say I was like, okay, I'm going to actually roadmap this to understand what it looks like, because I didn't want to go into it being extremely compulsive, because I think it can get really sloppy if you try to just run head first and just throw things at the wall and see what sticks. So for me, it was a planning process. So probably 6 months ago, I was like, okay, what do I want to start looking into? What avenues do I want to go into? But also, what's my brand? What do I want to achieve? Not just what kind of work do I like to do, but what's the bigger story of that? What's the overarching theme of things that I want to achieve, whether it's for myself, for my business, or helping others in their business? So yeah, I would say 6 months ago, I was like, all right, I'm just going to do it. It's never going to be the right time, but I'm not going to, if I wait, it will never happen, and I'll be disappointed in myself. So I just went for it and started really just planning.
I love that. So what was the planning process like? Because that can be a lot to wrap your head around, especially for people who are like, I have all these things that I'm interested in, that I'm kind of good at. But how do I turn this into either a full-time business or freelance, part-time side hustle, like you said? So what was that process like? One, for the planning or the roadmap, like you said, and then two, shifting your mindset from this being an idea of something you could do to something that you're going to do. That mindset shift piece is huge for people, because it can really be overwhelming to bite off freelance while you're full-time. And that's exactly what I did too. But the process is different for everybody. So I want to know what that looked like for you.
Yeah. So I think for me, it was really tuning into what I know about myself, what I don't know about myself, and what I want to know about myself. So kind of tuning in truly to listen to me and what I want out of a career. And so that was my first step, like journaling, writing down like how I feel about what my career currently looks like and what I envision for the future. And then starting to transform that. Okay, so now I understand where I'm at, but then creating realistic benchmarks. Well, even if it's not so far as to say, I want to like write a book by this time or whatever it's going to be, not going that far to get too specific, because then you start to pull way too many levers at once. Then it's like, all right, well, I'm going to try to, start writing this book, but then also I really like that, you just get too scattered. So for me, I was like, what's my brand? What do I want to achieve? And for me, it was, well, I want to help people tell stories
Love that.
because that's, I'm like a natural born storyteller. That's what I love
Mhm.
to do. I'm just expressive. I just want to share things with the world. But for me, it's not as much sharing what I've learned and what I've gone through. I want to help other people who don't feel like they have a voice or that just don't like doing that,
Mhm.
achieve what they want through that. So that was that. And so I started just doing like random things here and there on the side. So I got a project assigned to me at work and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to use this, like my full-time job, as a time for me to see what am I good at. So we had to do a project where they asked, who is Pella, right? So I made a video. I went around and interviewed a bunch of people in my office and talked to them about their experience and turned it into this longer form video than just an interview. And I was like, that was so fun. I loved talking to people and like pulling out their passion and like helping them tell a story that might have never gotten told before. I was like, that
Right.
was cool. So then I was like, okay, I know I like that. And then I wanted to draw it in a little bit. So what do I know I can do? Being realistic with myself. I know I can talk in front of a camera. I know that I can do voiceover work and I know that I can write. I'm not an extremely technical person, so I wanted to group it down into some smaller pieces. And then from there, I was like, okay, I'm ready to actually look for a few things because I know generally the direction I want to go, but I'm not quite sure what that path looks like yet. So then I just got onto Upwork, like you suggested, made a profile, and just started looking around to see, okay, are there enough opportunities for me and things I like? And then really just looking for more specialized items. And that's kind of where I've been at right now.
I love that. I love that you started out with journaling and starting out with where am I at now? That is such a huge piece. I journal and I meditate. If I try to daily, try to is the key term
Oh,
there.
that's yeah. Oh,
Right. Because, you really do have to figure out what's going to bring you joy and kind of as well as what your secret sauce is. What can you bring to other people? So journaling and meditating are huge. So I love that you said that.
yeah.
Because freelance to me and business in general to me is much more than the work itself. It's a holistic process with yourself. So I love that you said that. You mentioned that you got your first official freelance job on Upwork. I'm a big Upwork advocate. I started because a friend suggested it to me, and I kind of just ran with it, and I've had much success. There can be some catfishes in there. Is that the plural of catfish, or is it catfish?
I think it's just catfish.
I think that might be catfish too. There were some catfish
When you're
in
like,
there.
wait, not
I
quite
was like,
sure,
I
but I
don't know
said
words.
that right?
I write
Or,
for a living, but I don't know words.
oh, yeah, me
um,
always.
there were some catfish in there, and you have to learn that as you go. But hopefully, resources like this will help people not to make the same mistakes that I did, or maybe that some other people did. So I'd love to hear, other than me suggesting you to use Upwork, why you chose Upwork over the I don't even know how many freelance websites there are out there right now. So why you chose freelance or why you chose Upwork and what kind of the process was like of building a profile and the proposal and not just the process, but also your feelings during the time and how you were feeling emotionally during that time.
So for me, it felt like a safe place to land when you're first starting because there's a range of people who are casual business people and just need like a one-off project and people who are looking for more long-term clients and individuals that they want to work with on, more long-term projects. So the thing I thought was cool about Upwork was the idea that I could just see what's out there and get an idea for what people need because that helped me in understanding what are business trends, what do people need a lot of, but what am I also not seeing a ton of either because I want to move with the trend too to stay relevant because if you're going to go into freelance, you have to understand what the market looks like, current state, and what people are going to still need more of. So do people need help with video work? Do they need audio stuff? It was really just a research platform at that point. And then I just was like, okay, I'm never going to get a job if I don't start applying. So it was really user friendly. So I was just decided I was going to make a profile, and you have the opportunity to make more specialized profiles, just dependent on what you want to do. So I just had a broad one at first, and I just called myself like a brand specialist to just see what was going on. And then from there, since now I've realized I really like the voiceover side of things, now I've been looking into more specifics on that. And I've been working with specialized profile. So now I just have started applying for stuff. And the first job I got was with this woman who has a floral shop in New Jersey. And she needed help writing Instagram captions and wants some help on some blogs. So I applied and sent in the caption, and she was like, "This is perfect. I feel like you totally get my vision and my voice. I want to work with you on future projects." And I was like,
that was easy.
Okay, cool. Like, so it's kind of fun realizing that you do have something to offer when you're sort of unsure. So for me, it was just a matter of doing it.
Yeah.
Start, apply for things. If people don't respond, that's fine. At least you have gotten a chance to see what's out there.
For sure. Yeah. I love that, you have like those people that you just click with, and it's like not even an interview. It's more so just like a conversation of, hey, we're definitely on the same page. Let's work together. But that's definitely harder when you're first starting out and when you are just creating your profile on Upwork and kind of doing your research. So how was it like communicating with people when you had, technically no experience on your profile? What was that like?
Yeah, so that's something I've been still kind of working through. And I think in those scenarios, it's all about the proposal piece. So it's being really upfront with the client and saying, hey, I don't have a giant portfolio of things that I can show you. However, I really want to help you achieve this goal. I can do it in a timely manner, because I think that's the biggest thing that can differentiate you from the start from what I'm finding. If you can be available and give your time to the client and give them a quick turnaround, it'll probably get you jobs simply for that. So it was really just making myself available and helping them understand that I was right in line with their vision, saying, I know exactly what you want to achieve, and I really think I can do this. So it's selling yourself. As much as that feels like an icky word, it's just learning how to be really candid and just say, I don't have the biggest portfolio of all the people that you'll see, but I do want to help. And it's well received for the most part. And voiceover stuff is a little tougher that way, because you really do need a demo. You need experience. You need a bunch of different stuff. So now I've been looking into more of the pay-to-play websites where you have to get a subscription, but then you also get a lot of really good visibility and an ability to audition for stuff. So I'm kind of moving to a little bit more of a specialized website at this point. But
no, that's amazing. I love that you mentioned the proposal as a huge piece of it. It is huge. A lot of people will read your proposal and not even look at your profile. So it is very important. Did you create any mock-ups of like blog posts or Instagram captions or anything to put on your profile itself? Or did you leave, because there's a section where you can put samples, or did you leave that section empty?
So for now, I have it empty. So I don't have anything in there right now, which was really intriguing to me, the fact that I could still get a job without having any work. But I think that just speaks to the fact that if you just, oh goodness, I'm sorry, I hit my table. If you just set a realistic expectation, that stuff will come, and I also think you have to be willing at first to like not get paid very much.
Right.
Because a lot of times if people just need like one quick thing, they don't want to spend a lot of money. That's a way to differentiate yourself too. If you can say, hey, I'm willing to negotiate rate on this. I don't need to make all the money in the world for something like this, but I do want to build up my profile. So how can we make this a mutually beneficial relationship so you can get what you need done by somebody who knows what they're doing, but also I can get work in my portfolio and start to get a few projects under my belt. So that's kind of how I've been coming at it.
Right. I loved that beginning stage on Upwork, and, you know, whatever platform that you use, it's almost, you know, sort of magical because they don't have anything to base you off of or to criticize you on. It's just like, I'm telling you that this is who I am. I would love for you to trust it. I'm new to Upwork, though I come with a lot of experience that I can bring to the table. Because of my lack of experience, I'll even give you a discount. I'll knock my rate down a few dollars so that this can be a mutually beneficial relationship. And I found that really beneficial. And sometimes if I really want a client, I'll still say that, like, hey, I really want to beef up my profile, so I'm going to knock down my rate for you. And people respond to that because we're Americans, we love to save money. A lot of my clients are from America, so that tends to be a thing. But how have...
Was that what you started to do at first when you started working on Upwork? Were you like, hey, like, because it's a weird thing, you have to toe the line between like, we'll work for free and like looking desperate, but also saying I'm willing to... It's a weird thing. So what was your experience that way?
Yeah, I did in my proposals. So I took some examples. I created an example blog, and I put that on my sample. It wasn't one that I did for a client. It was just one that I wrote and I put up there just to show that I could write. I also took an example from when I was a marketing director in Los Angeles. So I had those two samples working for me, but I didn't have any reviews or ratings or anything. And some of the projects that I applied for had nothing to do with the samples that I was putting in, because I just wanted to, like we said, we're good at a lot of things. Maybe not masters, but we're good at a lot of things. So I was applying for a lot of different jobs, and I was just like, hey, I read your proposal. Here's what I can bring to the table. This is how I think I can be of service to this project. Because I am new to Upwork, I will move my rate down from this to this, and I will, like you said, similar to, you know, get you a quick turnaround time. And I got such great responses. I also, you know, I wrote a blog post about this on the Hive. You know, I used exclamation points and smiley faces and things like that, which seem unprofessional anywhere else, worked so well on Upwork because this is really a person-to-person situation, and they want to feel like they trust you. So docking my rate and using those little tricks of putting smiley faces and exclamation points in there actually got me a lot of responses. So I was able to get, you know, many clients right away. It took a while. Like, I think I got one or two, and then there was like a dry spell, and then I got a few, and then a dry spell, which is, you know, that's just how business works in general, no matter what you're doing. But lowering my rate and adding those personal touches into my proposals helped so much. So we talked a little bit about how you've come to where you are now. You are full-time, you are freelance. I want to know how you're balancing the two, as far as scheduling and then mentally as well, and also your future goals for both.
Yeah, so it's daunting to think about, you know, balancing a full-time job, but also really wanting to move into the freelance space. And for me, it's one of those things where I have no intentions of switching what I'm doing right now. Like, I really am loving my job. I'm learning so much, and it's been fun. So right now I'm trying to treat freelance as a hobby, but being intentional about that too, you know, because as much as I would love to just sit and apply for stuff on Upwork all day, because it's actually fun to me, I have to kind of reel it back and understand that I have an obligation to my company first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, my free time, I can do whatever I want with it. And because I have a little bit more of a creative outlet now, I find that I'm being a little bit more efficient in my 9-to-5 job because I want to work on that stuff.
Love
So it created some cool urgency for me that I don't think I had before, because I didn't have a creative driver that was, keeping me craving doing that. So for me, it's been okay for right now. It really hasn't been an issue trying to balance everything. In terms of goals, I think I'm trying to narrow down a little bit because like I said earlier, it's this weird towing the line, because you don't want to do everything at once, but you want to do something. And especially for me, like making the investment in the recording equipment that I just recently bought, like I needed to upgrade. And if I was going to be competitive at all, I knew I needed to make the investment. So I did, but I didn't want to buy state of the art either, because you never know. And I don't want to go into it doubting myself. So I just bought the equipment I needed and decided to just do it. Because I think if you have that internal negotiation with yourself, you give yourself a chance to say no all the time. And that was just not going to be a thing for me anymore. So I just did it. I bought the stuff. It was a little scary because it was kind of expensive.
Investing in yourself is huge, though. It's so huge. It's there's nothing, I wouldn't consider myself a money motivated person, but to put your money where your mouth is, there's something very motivating about that. So the fact that you invested in that, that's huge. And because of that, not because you have the equipment, but because your mindset is there of, I need these things, that already puts you a step ahead of many people who are just starting out and who are not willing to invest in themselves. So that's huge. And I'm really glad that you said that.
Thank you. Yeah. And I think it's a different thing. Like, for example, like when people are trying to lose weight or something, right? Like they might buy like the pants that they eventually want to fit into, where it's different than that, because it's that kind of thing is you're like hoping for something, but you don't know when or where your motivation is going to kind of bring you there. However, from a business perspective, it's a different mentality of, okay, I know I want to do this. I'm going to give myself no excuse. But to
just the dog. I'm shaking. Sorry.
No, I can't actually.
Oh.
No, you're fine.
He's a little cutie.
Little cutie. But yeah, I think that was a really big step. You have to make the investment. You don't need to get the best stuff. Because I've been listening to a podcast too. I think that's a big thing as well. Like, don't try to recreate the wheel. That's been one of the biggest eye openers for me. Like, read what other people do. Like, learn from your blog and read what you've done, because a lot of other people who have been really successful in the industry, they've done it, they know what to do, and they can condense years into days. So like, be creative, but take advice from people who know what they're doing.
Yes.
Like, it takes so much of the guesswork out of it. Listen to people, listen to their stories, do some research, but don't go overboard with that either. Like, figure out, okay, this is doable, and put it in motion,
Yes. I love that. We're going to add something else.
Oh gosh, I'm looking at my notes here.
You're so prepared.
I keep losing track because that's what I do. I like go off on a tangent. Now I don't even remember what the last question you asked was.
I love that though. That's, that's pretty much how I operate all the time. Somebody will ask me.
Because better stuff comes with it, as opposed to like, okay, next question. Like, it's just so much easier to let the conversation flow.
Yes.
Oh no, keep going. I'm just looking at this.
I was going to ask, we talked a little bit about balance, and you're here in a place where you've gotten a few clients under your belt. You are balancing freelance and full-time, which I love. What's one thing that surprised you most about, starting to freelance, and one thing that you're most excited about growing freelance?
I think they kind of are both the same answer. It's like, I'm just surprised at how doable it is. Like, it seems so much more intimidating than it actually is. And I know this has been like the common theme, but you just have to do it. Like, just go for it. And I've been surprised with the amount of feedback that I've gotten, and especially in voiceover, I've learned what the core mechanics are. Like, you have to have a quality sound, you have to be available, and you have to be professional. And so I was like, I can do all of those things. And I think it was really just learning, like, I can do this. I'm going to do this. I think especially as women, we all give ourselves too many excuses as to like why it's not the right time, or I don't feel like I'm, completely qualified. Well, I'm not qualified and I don't really have time, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's important and it's what I want to do, So I think for me, that's been a big shock kind of. And it's what I'm excited for, because now I'm finally in this place where I'm far enough down the road to where I see what's coming. It's not dark anymore. It's not scary to me. I have a clearer vision, but I think it's because I've laid some foundation, some groundwork to understand where I want to go before just jumping into it because it sounds fun. Because it's not just, oh, freelance sounds fun. Like, work, be your own boss. Like, it's not just that. It's not just being able to like sit down and sip on a coffee and watch Oprah. That's not what it is. It's you have to put the time in, because the people who I've learned are successful in freelance and being entrepreneurs are the biggest grinders of them all. They just make it look easy, right? So it's learning how to differentiate yourself and truly committing to it, while keeping grounded and keeping realistic and sort of towing the line and having a balance. I think I'm just excited that it's doable for me and for anyone, because I don't have experience, but I'm just going to do it.
I love that. And I was going to ask you, what's one piece of advice you would give to people, but that, I mean, you pretty much said it there. If you had to go back and start all over and start from ground zero, not even ground one, we'll start from ground zero. I think that's the thing. What would be the first thing that you would do to grow freelance?
Start sooner. Like, don't sit around and question. Like, I think as much as I was saying earlier that it's important to roadmap and plan and whatever, it's my whole theme is moving forward but not rushing, and researching but not going overboard, creating and being inventive but not recreating or reinventing the wheel, like using your resources and kind of just jumping to the next stone before you're ready, but just doing it. And it's like this weird thing where you're nervous about it, and that's when it's good to go for it. Because I was just listening to a podcast yesterday that was talking about, it was Tony Robbins, and of course he's like the best ever. And he just talked so much about how, like, you're never going to be ready. You're never going to feel totally courageous, but when it's the right time is when you're nervous. And you can't, a lot of people don't start because they're afraid of being successful. Right. Because there's so much that comes with that. It's like when you finally find something that you're like, oh, I'm good at this. I can do this. It's scary because you're like, this is going to become something. It's going to be. Isn't it weird? It's like this weird light switch that flips on. You're like, this is going to be what I'm going to do. Like, I know it because I can. And it's just, you kind of clip in and figure out like where you're going, and it gets scary. But I think starting sooner obviously leads to results sooner, and failing sooner lends itself to learning sooner. So if once you just start, you can work out the kinks and figure it out from there. It just doesn't need to be as complicated as I think we all want to make it,
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. You've got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere.
And I mean, like,
that's what I'm telling people all the time.
Yeah. And do you think, I mean, what would you give as advice to you back back then? Like before you were starting, what would you say for that?
That's a good question. What would I say to me starting out? I would honestly, I would say, I don't know, maybe like
I know, isn't that hard?
don't be afraid of success because, I knew when I had the idea to start the Hive a few years ago that it was going to be something bigger than myself. And I'm definitely one of those people I have more fears of success than fears of failure. I'm not afraid to fail. I will try anything once. But it's more so that like, what are the things, like my life is going to change once I really put my mind to this, and it's going to change in a way where I have to change my work ethic. I have to change the way I balance, friends and family. I have to change my relationship with money, my relationship with time, in health, and it all. So it was, and I'm still getting there. It's still a process. So
Right.
don't be afraid to succeed, and don't be afraid to take the things head on that will lead to success, and to trust your intuition. I would say those two things. Don't be afraid to succeed, and trust your intuition, because if this person's not going to be the right client, if this isn't your best work, um, if you need a minute, if you need a week off, if you need time to breathe, if this client relationship isn't going to be good for you. So trust your intuition and don't be afraid of success would be two huge things that I would tell to myself and to other people looking to grow freelance.
100%. And I think it's important to understand that there is a way where you can integrate your life and your work, and it doesn't have to feel, it's not even like, oh, shouldn't feel like work. Well, it should, because it's your job. It's what you're getting paid to do. But
Right.
there's also a way to integrate the two together, and find a way where you can balance yourself and feel really healthy and really successful. And if you can feed both at the same time, then the balance just comes. It just happens, because you have such a clear goal, and it has to be bigger than you. It has to be bigger than, oh, I just want to make money, or that you have to understand why you're doing it. And I think it just leads you down the right path. I think you just end up manifesting it without really even realizing. But it is scary walking into a black hole and just like totally uncharted territory, but it's also fun.
Right. It's lots of fun, and it's so rewarding. I love it. I feel, I am responsible for whether I succeed or fail. So it's always on me. Now I'm operating as my own business instead of just, doing freelance on the side. I was my business. And it's exciting. And I love being able to do things like this, talk to, you know, women and people like you who are starting out and are broadening their horizons of what their life can look like. So I'm so happy that you sat down with me, because I really think that this will help people who are, looking to grow freelance and just starting out, or, wanting to do both full-time and freelance. So thank you so, so much for talking to me.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a blast.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you as my first Grow Freelance interview.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be the first.
Thanks, Molly. Goodbye.
Thank you.